we'll go ahead and I will call the Thursday, April 2nd special meeting for the Village of Essex Junction Trustees to order. And go into agenda additions or changes. I just want to point out that due to the COVID-19 or coronavirus pandemic, this meeting is being held virtually. You can go to Channel 17's YouTube channel in order to live stream it, so you can see what we're seeing. If you would like to join via conference call, which will only give you the audio, people can do that by calling the phone number 802-377-3784 with the ID 942-351-129, followed by the pound or hashtag sign. Again, that phone number is 802-377-3784 with the conference ID 942-351-129. For the purposes of recording minutes, you will be asked to provide your first and last name. And then when listening to the meeting, please keep your phone or computer on mute as to prevent interruptions during the meeting. For agenda items, when it is appropriate for the public to speak, please unmute your phone or computer to introduce yourself before requesting the floor from myself. Additionally, we will make sure that there are plenty of opportunities for public input should you so desire to speak. We have quite a few agenda additions or changes.
We do. We have a couple of additions and changes. We have a request to authorize a bid award for the wastewater facility digester and flow equalization concrete repairs, which would be item 5B. And since we have you, we figured it's a good time for an update on COVID-19 and possible action upon additional safety precautions. There's item 5C. We also have some additional handouts to go with item 5A. That's rewarning the town meeting. More information had come in the past few days from the state and some guidance there that we can fill you in on. And there's also some handouts to go with the two additional items and changes. There's a memo about the wastewater digester and also some memo and information about the COVID-19 responses.
We accept the changes to the agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you both. And any comments on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Great, thank you. So the agenda has been amended. And now we are at the portion of the meeting for public to be heard. So this is the part of the meeting where if there is somebody who would like to speak to the board about something that is not on the agenda, now is the time to do so. And as I understand, there may be a delay, there may be a 30-second delay. I will use a timer on the computer here for 30 seconds. And then at the end of that, if nobody has spoken, we will move on. The timer starts now, and if you would like to speak to the board, now is time to do so. Okay, that has been slightly over 30 seconds. Nobody had asked to speak, so we can go ahead and assume that nobody wanted to talk to the board on something, which will now bring us up to agenda item 5A of annual meeting and all that is going on with rescheduling annual meeting. This has been a very fast-moving effort, if you will, with a lot of changes that have happened in a very short period of time, to say the least. I don't know if one of the staff wants to kick this off from there.
Sure, I'll take this. We originally were looking at village meeting was supposed to happen last night. Obviously, that was canceled. You canceled that at your last meeting. We originally were looking to reschedule it based on the law for May 11th with ballot voting on May 19th over the weekend, and then the governor issued some new order about what can happen with ballots and elections. We got some more guidance from the Secretary of State on that just in the past couple of days. At this point, the Secretary of State is advising that we hold off on warning any town meetings, any village meetings for the time being until we have some more dates and some more certainty or clarity around what's going on with COVID-19. Staff recommends we do pursue that. We do take that recommendation at this point for the Secretary of State. We do still want to get village meeting warned. Obviously, there's the budget that needs to get passed. It's the biggest thing. There's some elections, but they're uncontested. If we take the additional time, that buys us some time to coordinate with the school district. If we want to do that, there was going to be some ballot voting was going to be combined on the 19th. If we want to stick with that or try to push the date out a little bit longer to buy us some more time as far as the pandemic goes. That's the quick and dirty. Like I said, there's a lot of changing information that we just threw at you in the past day or two. So I'm happy to answer questions. Looks like Susan just joined the call as well, so she might be able to provide some guidance. If we do postpone it, the thought is to reassess, weekly, probably reconvene the board, and whether it's next week or the week after that for your normal scheduled meetings, and try to choose a date. But doing it this way does give some additional time to just see how things are going to shape out.
Great. And so just a quick follow-up question. I know one of the reasons why we're talking today, or why we warned this special meeting, because as possible. Given that
Andrew, you're kind of breaking up.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm finding it difficult to hear as well.
Andrew, you're kind of breaking up. Sorry.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Uh-oh. I think, did we just lose Andrew?
Probably, maybe.
How's this?
That's better, Andrew. That's good.
Oh, all right.
Much better.
I have no idea what anybody heard. I'm assuming nothing.
Not much.
Yep.
All right. So basically, what I was saying is that my understanding is the reason why we're meeting today is that we were required as a community to, whenever we're going to reschedule an annual meeting, it must be done, I believe the quote is, as soon as possible. And so this was interpreted as we needed to reschedule it today, being the subsequent day. If I'm understanding the email from the Director of Elections correctly, from the Secretary of State, that we don't need to follow that guidance now, and that's correct?
That is correct.
Great. And then the other question was, so from there, we still have to follow that 30 to 40 day window. Is that correct?
Susan, that's my understanding, but once we decide to warn it, I believe that's the case. I want Susan to chime in on that as well to make sure that my understanding is correct.
Yes, I do believe that is the case.
And
Right.
Andrew, if I can, Susan, we also need time to prepare the ballots.
Yeah, the ballots have to be ready usually 20 days before the election, but it's yeah. That's the legal requirement is 20 days. They're usually ready before that.
So everybody knows it can't just be a couple days in advance.
Yeah. So it's got to be, I mean, you got to warn it at least 30 days before you're going to have the election. So, and that's just, it has to be posted 30 days. So warn it between 30 and 40 days. And then the posting has to go in the 3 public places. And then we would order ballots as soon as the warning was adopted, and the vendor that we deal with is usually pretty quick about turning those over. And I at this point don't know what the school district is thinking as far as when they're going to schedule, because they also know about the changes. So.
Yes, so I would certainly be on board with trying to work back with the school district to see if we can combine our annual meetings to get this as efficient as possible, especially during this time of if people do have to attend in person and or virtually, then we can do that as easily as possible, not ask people to come out more than once. So I would certainly be on board with that, as well as pushing us out as far as we possibly can. At this point, I don't disagree that May seems a little early and a little optimistic.
Can I ask a quick question, Andrew?
Yes, Raj, you may.
So May is probably almost certainly not going to happen. The state today predicted peaking late April, early to mid-May today. So we could foreseeably go into the next fiscal year or be looking at a mail ballot. So I'm curious, it is an option should the governor authorize the Secretary of State to do that, how much time that would add. Are we thinking that would add a week to get that mailed out to people, and then, or is that so far down the list of scenarios that we just don't have a lot of guidance on that yet, which is sort of what I'm assuming. I guess I'm wondering, 30 days is the minimum if we have to do a mail ballot. And I guess my second question for Evan is, should we have to go past June 30th? What are the ramifications for the municipality? And if off the top of your head, I don't expect you to have a prepared presentation.
I see George shaking his head, but as far as I've read, you're supposed to have a budget by basically June 30th, or the old one stays in effect. Therefore, I've been looking at my calendar, and I would say Thursday, June 25th is about as late as I would dare go with a last meeting, or what could be a last meeting. That's a Thursday. So what I'm suggesting is we have a little bit of time before we actually have to create the next date, since they removed the 30 and 40. We get some time to talk to the school district. We pull out 2 dates, an early date, which probably we shouldn't use, and a later date, which we absolutely have to have it and do it that way, or something like that. But we will come back to you with those days. We did this meeting because under the old law, this is what we were supposed to do. I don't think they had pandemic on their minds when they created this law.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just one point, Evan, we still do have to warn the election at least 30 days before we have it.
Yep.
Okay, good to know. Well, it's also good to know that we can get the trustees at least electronically for a quick.
And can I ask one question? Are you sure that if the budget isn't approved on time, that the old one ought to, are you sure of that, or is that a guess?
Well, that's how the school district's law goes.
Okay.
So I would have to check what villages' laws
Okay.
are.
You might want to check on that. I don't know.
We'd have to check. At worst, it stays in effect for the fiscal year. Better is it stays in effect until a new budget is passed. But I would check that.
All right.
It would definitely be worth checking. If I recall correctly, there were communities a couple of years ago where their budgets were not passed, and there were some concerns about it not being passed. Come July 1, do they then just not have a budget and have to use fund balance? So having that understanding would be very helpful.
Yeah, I believe that has occurred in Milton, but I will have to double check that.
There was also a question that Raj had as well that I'm not sure if it got answered, which was if there were to be ballots that were mailed out, would that add on to that 30 to 40 day window?
That's a question for Susan.
Yeah, we already have that capability. Anybody that wants a ballot mailed to them can get a ballot mailed to them. But if we're talking about automatically mailing ballots to every voter, which I hope the Secretary of State does not let us do, we're talking mailing 7,000 ballots out. I can't get those out in a week.
Nope.
I guess I would ask if we have no leeway to go past June 30, then we should probably get a good idea of what mailing ballots out looks like in the next couple of weeks at the latest. Because I can tell you, that's probably at least a very good possibility if we're stuck by the June 30th deadline.
We're talking about an election that never gets more than 1,000 people in the village to the polls, and you're talking about mailing 7,200 ballots.
Well, I think more importantly, what we're talking about is not having anybody come together.
Yep, and all they have to do is request it, and we can mail it out. We already have a large list of people. You don't have to have a reason to get a ballot mailed to you. All you have to do is say, I want a ballot mailed to me. We can put all kinds of notices out there telling people to call or email to request it.
I guess that sounds great. I guess I'd want a determination from the Secretary of State's office whether that's enough due diligence in this case, or if somebody have an argument that they weren't offered an opportunity at the last minute when they wanted to vote.
Absolutely, I can check that with the Secretary of State's office.
I'm not saying that the mailing everybody a ballot is a great idea by any means.
Can I say something?
One suggestion you may want to think of, it might be, it's one level of difficulty to mail a ballot out to everybody. It's probably less difficult to mail to every residence in Essex Junction just a card saying, here's the election, if you want a ballot, here's what to do. Either go online or call or to request that one be sent to you. If you don't want a ballot, if you don't care about voting, then forget it, it's nothing. But you know what I'm saying? That might be an easier mass mailing to do. And then that might whittle it down. You might only get a couple of hundred people who say, yeah, send me a ballot, who care enough to say, send me a ballot. The problem is that, if you're tying in with the school district, we're tying in with a $82 million budget in a very big entity that's going to have to be very, very careful because they're going to be very concerned about getting their budget approved. So, but I think that's kind of where we are. But that might be something that we could achieve once we get things nailed down a little bit. You could send out just a card to every household. That's only about 4,000 homes, as I recall, Susan. Is that about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. And the school district does send that kind of postcard out, so it's something we could maybe piggyback on them.
Yeah.
If we were doing this all together.
Yeah.
And so I know Dan, or I thought I heard Dan's voice in the background wanting to chat.
No, George took care of it. That's good.
Great. So are there any other questions about this from the trustees?
Nope. Good luck.
Do we think it is reasonable I believe we have another meeting scheduled on April 14th. Assuming that we keep that meeting, would it be reasonable to have answers to those questions so then we can revisit at that point in time?
Sounds good.
I think so, but I hope so. We'll certainly try. We'll meet tomorrow to discuss.
Great. So looking at that memo from staff, with not needing to make a decision tonight, if the trustees are okay, then we will continue to table this until a future meeting.
Yes.
Sounds good.
Okay. One of the things that did somebody say something there?
Just said thank you all.
Oh.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. So one of the things that we said at the onset is, as I understand, there may be a 30-second delay, and we don't know if people have just called in. If there is members from the public who wish to speak to this item, I want to make sure we have time for public input. So I will start the timer now. You will have 30 seconds to let us know whether you wanted to speak with us and to make sure you identify yourself. So go ahead and timer's on. Okay, that has been 30 seconds according to my timer. So since we didn't hear anybody, that will move us on to the new item of 5B of the bid award for the wastewater facility digester and flow equalization concrete repairs. And I believe Jim is on the line. Is Jim going to be introducing this?
Jim is not on the line that I can see, so I'll speak to this. This is Greg. So the capital plan for the wastewater facility includes anaerobic digester and flow equalization tank. It's basically some concrete work, anaerobic digester block wall. The flow equalization basin has concrete tank walls that are due for repair. The trustees approved going out for bid with this in November the 2019, this past year. 2 bids came in, one from NA Minash, one from Kingsbury. MA Minash was the low bidder. The engineer has reviewed the details and recommends that the trustees authorize the trustees go with NA Minash, a company out of Morrisville, and authorize the unified manager to sign that contract. The low bid was for $135,713. The other bid was about $255,000.
Thank you, Greg. My only question is in relation to the bid. With that giant difference, is there a concern that the low bidder underbid the project, and could we then find ourselves with a much more significant bill down the road?
Can I comment?
Sorry, I muted myself.
Just one comment. So Minash Well Drilling, their company, it's a very reputable company, and I would tend to believe their bid would be accurate and that they would do a fine job.
Great. And Greg, were you going to say something as well?
Yeah, staff is comfortable with the low bid. The engineer has reviewed it as well. So between staff and the engineer, we're comfortable with the low bidder.
Great.
It's in line with the engineer's original estimate of work.
Yep.
One other comment, Andrew, and the rest of the board. A lot of times, we all know bidders will put up a high bid beyond, reasonable, just because they have so much work, and just throw it out there as maybe if they get it, then they make a lot of money on it.
Right. Throw out the Cadillac in case you get the mega bucks.
Right. Exactly. They've got the work,
Right. Do any board members have any other questions on this?
No.
Nope.
Before we go into the motion, again, making sure we have time for public comment. The time will start now, so you have 30 seconds to let us know if you'd like to speak. Just make sure you identify yourself beforehand. And that looks like 30 seconds. Nobody had asked to speak, so would someone like to make a motion?
I don't have the total language in front of me here.
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead, Dan. Yeah.
That the trustees award the award the project for the wastewater treatment facility, anaerobic digester and flow equalization tank. That project to NA Minash Corporation for the amount of $135,000 or $135,713.
I'll second.
And is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Greg, for introducing this. Thank you as well to Jim and the staff for their hard work on this. Also, please pass the appreciation on to Susan McNamara Hill earlier. Sorry I missed that while she was since she's not here any longer. Just appreciate her being on the line tonight.
Will do.
And that brings us on to agenda item 5C about COVID-19 update and any possible action.
I think that's me. Thank you. In your packet is a couple of memos. One is for me. It's a couple pages of where we've been, what's new to report, and then also the Parks and Open Space action that we took yesterday. Is that feedback? Am I too close? Is it too far? I'm just here. Well, I don't know. Okay, I thought we were hearing some feedback. Since I don't know who's on the line in terms of if anybody's watching us, I'll just do a quick update of kind of where we were. Several weeks ago, when we got reports that this was coming and coming fast, we established our emergency operations plan. Chief Gary, who has already previously been designated our emergency operations coordinator, was tasked with implementing the emergency operations plan. Chief Gary and I have sat down and we decided the best way to address this emergency was through something what is known as unified command. That means there's one person in charge, and that allows you to take swift action where necessary. We asked the boards to declare an emergency. You both did that at subsequent board meetings. As part of our discussions, we felt it was best that the village and the town would act with one voice during this crisis and do that as much as possible. So if we were going to close one library, say Brunel, we were going to close Essex Free. If we were going to close another building that the village had one and the town had one, we'd close both of them. If we were going to do reduced hours, we would do the same reduced hours. We wanted to put out one message to our entire community. We spoke with all the department heads about that, and that was unanimous. We also talked about having what we would do with our employees. We wanted to make sure that our employees were here for the people, and to be able to do that, we were going to limit access to our buildings, but have it by appointment only, where we could. And our police and other departments would rotate shifts so that if someone did get COVID-19, we didn't lose the entire department. They were compartmentalized for as long as they could be. In order to continue to have that consistent messaging in the emergency operations plan, it calls for having a public information officer. That is one person who information is supposed to flow through and put out messaging for the community from the organization. We chose Greg Duggan for the obvious reasons of his experience in newspaper work and writing. And asked he have an assistant, which is Tammy Getchell, who is doing our communications website and other work that seemed to make sense. So we put that in place. Following that, we had to make some early decisions about our senior center. Early on, they were the population target that was being affected the most. We closed the senior center, but wanted to keep the senior van program running as long as we could, thinking that people would need that senior van to go to doctor's appointments, the supermarket, the pharmacy. We found out very early on that the seniors did not want to use the van. They were sheltering in place. And all of our drivers are of the senior persuasion. They wanted to be able to protect their families and not get the virus. So we had to close that down, at least temporarily. We also wanted to make sure our public spaces got disinfected. So we started working with our cleaning company that does all of our buildings, and we disinfected by fogging all of our buildings. We have since purchased all of the equipment needed to disinfect our buildings, and we are currently doing that in-house. And we do it on a regular basis. We work directly with our staffs who have the most contact with the public. We began limiting access to our buildings, including our libraries, our senior center, which was closed, and our village halls. 75 Maple, which is the village's recreation department, and also the town's recreation department, was closed to the public, but open for childcare, which we are using for first responders by the state governor's exemption. And we worked with the school district to be the morning food pickup for the students and their families. That is still ongoing at that location. We did close Memorial Hall. We canceled out a couple of the reservations. We are keeping Memorial Hall closed just in case we have a new purpose for it ongoing. We also have the senior center, which is vacant. We want to keep that vacant for the time being. And we have canceled all non-village board, non-select board meetings of committees and commissions. Now that we have electronics up and running, we may relax that in the coming weeks, but for right now, we're keeping that in place. 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Champaign Valley Expo called me and let me know that UVM Medical Center was seeking a suitable location to do a drive-through COVID-19 test site. We immediately agreed to let them use that site as it has all the things they were going to need, and it would be convenient for our residents should they go for testing and or any of our employees. That got up and running in a matter of days. UVM was very appreciative, as was CVE, as public health and safety is also part of CVE's mission. Financially, we also made the decision to stop changing out water meters and suspended any water shutoffs. This is not the time to cut off anybody's water while they're sheltering in place. We also did keep the property tax payments due as of March 16th. This had been well publicized and in effect for years. Due to a minor glitch on one of our websites, we actually had the date as the 17th. We did honor the 17th. Also, we have been following very closely the guidance from FEMA as to what will be reimbursable during this event. We have established 2 different accounts, one for the village and one for the town, for all expenditures related to the coronavirus pandemic to date. So we are hopeful that when we are allowed to submit, we will get some reimbursement monies. So what's new to report? Unfortunately, we have had a couple of deaths in our community. This is very regrettable. It saddens all of us. All 3 were from the same property. They are doing what the health department and others are now requiring of them if they hadn't already done it. But it has also taught us a valuable lesson about our fire calls. We have changed our response protocol to our responders. Because they are paid on call and they are not sitting at the station for a call and then going out, they would, from time to time, from wherever they were, stop at the call and render assistance before going to the station. We are no longer doing that. We are treating every call as a potential hazardous call. We will respond to the fire station, go in a vehicle with protective equipment, and go to the call. Both fire departments are also working out how they're going to cover each other's territory to make sure we are getting there as swift as possible. Just yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, days are getting confused with me, we closed access to all village and town park amenities. And I want to make sure people understand it's not the parks that are closed, it's the amenities. It would be the swing sets, basketball courts, baseball fields, the dog park, and the tennis courts, and the pickleball courts. The parks themselves are open. People are free to walk through them, bike through them, as long as they are keeping their social distance. We also posted that violations of those is considered trespassing. Therefore, the police can act on trespassing. The state's Human Services Department called me and identified Champlain Valley Expo as their preferred and proper area location for an oversurge hospital facility for non-COVID-19 patients. They are working with the National Guard, preparing a 400-bed facility, again, for non-COVID-19 patients. What they are attempting to do is take anybody who is at our hospitals, local or not, who do not need COVID-19 care, they would look to move them to a facility such as this. I believe there's one in Brattleboro, there's one in Derry, there's going to be one here, and I'm missing the fourth. But that's what this facility would be. They claim that this will be up and running by Monday. Local hotels are being sought to house recovering patients. Police are checking hotels and motels weekly to ensure they are complying with all state regulations. Staff is reviewing options for helping our most vulnerable citizens in the areas of food security, communicating with our senior population, restocking of supplies, and contingencies for staffing should the virus require the quarantining of staff members. As I stated earlier, one of our main goals, is to remain up and running during this crisis. To do that, we have to self-distance ourselves and our teams so that hopefully over, say, whatever period of time this is going to be, we will have an active member of each department available to work. It is hard, but is what we've decided to try to do. Therefore, take it like in the police department, we are rotating shifts to make sure that an entire shift is not on and next to each other at the same time and go to the same call and be exposed at the same call. We think that's the best way of going about it. The trustees have already postponed the village's annual meeting and canceled the community dinner. As of the motion earlier, we are trying to find a suitable date for that. Board meetings will be electronic and include phone access. Things are changing rapidly, as you all know. I'm sure you watch the news, you talk to me often and other staff members. We think we're going one way, and by 5 o'clock, the governor comes out with an announcement and we're going a different direction. But from what we can see from the public, they are at least getting out and doing some exercising. For the most part, they are social distancing. They are still going to the supermarket and other things. And we are just about to send out our second letter to the seniors, telling them some information and the phone numbers that we would want them to call and to be very mindful of scams. Unfortunately, this is the time when scams come out. The federal government is going to be mailing checks which is just, it's a good thing that they're doing it, but there are going to be scams. And we tell people the federal government does not need your social security number. They need nothing from you. And they rarely, if ever, will call you. They do things by mail, and they make you call them. Please, please do not fall for any telephone scams or mail scams. And then with that, I'll answer any questions.
And I would open it up to, I've spoken a fair amount with Evan about this type of stuff, so I would certainly open it up to other board members if you have other questions, comments.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Raj.
Evan and Greg, I just hope you pass along to the staff and to you both. I can appreciate how difficult this must be for everyone to get through, and I think that communication and everything everyone has done is appreciated and amazing. As far as the parks, I appreciate both rec departments being flexible and open to considering measures to keep people safe. And I hope the community understands that this is a rapidly moving situation, and the community is doing, the rec departments are doing what's best, what they think is best, and what the CDC and the Vermont Department of Health and the National Recreation and Parks Association recommend. Also put out there that I hope we also keep in mind the science behind what they're finding with this virus, and maybe, you know, stay willing to act on some of these things prior to perhaps when National Rec and Parks decides to change their policy. I can appreciate their change of heart. It's great that they that professional organization changed their guidance on how to approach playgrounds and areas like that. But as we're finding out, people are contagious for days prior to showing any symptoms. So the concern, and now the new guidance to wear masks in public, may see more requests to take more action. Just wanted to put that out there. But overall, express my appreciation to the rec departments for being open and for taking action when it was needed.
I think we're going to see masks sooner rather than later. I am remiss. I want to mention also the clerk's department. They have remained open, but by appointment and only limited hours. There's a reason for that. Prior to the virus we do a lot of records. We do a lot of work with people who are buying and selling their homes, refinancing, etc. Even today, I have a person who's moving out of our community, but into another community, but cannot close because the place they are buying in another community, they can't get records out of their clerk's office. We are trying to keep the clerk's office open as much as we can. We only allow 2 people in the building at the same time. They have to have an appointment. They have to wipe down the area that they're about to work in and wipe it down before they leave. They are not actually in contact with our employees, but we're trying to do that because people need us. It's also where all our phones ring. So we get dozens and dozens of calls a day, ranging in all kinds of questions. And so we are trying to keep that open for at least parts of the day to be able to answer questions and be there for our people. And then there's the police department. The police department is open, obviously, but they do prefer if you have an opportunity to call before you come in, but they are open. They are patrolling the streets. We do have 36 square miles for the entire community. People seem to believe because they don't see any traffic and they don't see much in the way of people out in the streets, I think they think our police are not busy. I can assure you they are very busy. It is a tough time for a lot of people, and they may not be used to being in their house or apartment for that amount of time straight. And when that happens, tempers tend to flare, and we get a call. So we're hopeful. We have some good plans in place. The chief of, guess we got to move around a little bit in this room. The chief is doing a fantastic job along with his staff. And I'm sorry, I'll answer more questions.
Back to the clerk's office for 1 second. The clerk's office is exploring ways to try to get a lot of the land records online, so we're hoping that will be an option in the near future to even cut down further on public interaction.
Great to hear.
I'll weigh in on that real quickly and say I appreciate that. And as you mentioned, Evan, from my office, we definitely appreciate the fact that it's open a couple hours, and please pass that along to Susan as well.
We absolutely will. I mean, when we talk about people who have just either lost their job or furloughed or whatever, and may not know where their next paycheck's going to come to, but they were, waiting on their refi. The last thing we want to do is, smash them in the thumb. Anybody else? Thank you.
All right. Definitely, we appreciate all the work the staff have been doing. It's been a Herculean task, to say the least, and it's greatly appreciated. Do trustees have anything else they wanted to add? Any other comments, questions about this? Okay. Again, seeing as this is a public meeting, need to make sure that we have time for anybody in the public if they had any questions or comments. The timer starts now. Please make sure you identify yourself beforehand if you'd like to speak.
I wish we could get the Jeopardy music for this thing if we're going to keep doing it that way.
We'll see if we can't find that for the next meeting.
Yeah, that would be good, or something,
Maybe we can get Andy to record something on the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We come back. Can I say something extra?
Maybe. Depends on what it is. 30 seconds are up. Nobody has asked to speak. Go ahead.
Just so that, thank you for the kind comments. Also, the state has been very good to work with. They've been very communicative. They've been out in front as best they can. And so we also want to thank CVE for being available and amenable to the idea of the surge bed hospital, and to Global Foundries, who donated a couple of boxes of N95 masks to the police department.
That's great to hear. We certainly do appreciate that from Global Foundries. It's a very kind gesture on their part. And certainly the communication as well from Tim at CVE to the village has been fantastic in terms of these things as they've popped up instead of finding out in the press. They've been reaching out to Evan, has been greatly appreciated. So seeing that there are no other comments, this is not anything that we need to act upon at this point. It looks like that we don't have an executive session either. We appear ready to adjourn.
One last thing.
Oh, yes.
Got it. All right, good.
Perfect,
Is that the
Dan.
final Jeopardy question?
That's it. That's my final Jeopardy.
Dan
I
comes once again.
Who is Dan Karen?
You win.
I like it.
Nailed
I
it.
like it. That's perfect.
I
All right.
we adjourn.
All right.
Second.
I'll second. Raj got it.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Raj. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good to hear. Passes unanimously. Thank you all. Staff, thank you so much. Everybody stay healthy and have a good night.
Stay safe.
Be safe. Good night, everyone.
Social distance.
Good night, Dan. Good night, Raj. Good night,
Good night,
Andrew.
everybody.
Good night,
See ya.
Good night, all.
Good night,
All
John
right.
Boy. Bye.
Bye.